So what is an essential oil? Essential oils are a fragrant, vital fluid distilled from flowers, shrubs, leaves, trees, roots, and seeds. Because they are necessary for the life of the plant and they play a vital role in the biological processes of the vegetation, these substances are called essential because they carry out the lifeblood, the intelligence, and the vibrational energy that endow them with their healing power to sustain their own life. Essential oils are God's original medicine because they were created on the third day. You see, when God created these plants, His word went forth in power, creating life, and continues to create life in the lifeblood of the plant, which is the oil. Genesis 1:12-13 says, "And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the third day." Some of the aromatic plants and their parts in which essential oils come from include trees, grasses, fruits, needles, roots, and seeds. And I want to take a look at some of these now. From the tree, we can get gum resins. Now, this is frankincense. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's actually a gum resin in which the tree is pierced and the sap runs out and hardens into these droplets they're called tears. Another tree is from which we get myrrh. Myrrh, again, is a gum resin in which the droplets harden into these droplets called tears. This is another form of myrrh that is collected from the tree sap. And this is actually one of the fragrances that was used in the incense, known as the stratus benzoid. And this is also a gum resin from the tree. And when we look at some of the other plant parts used, we have cedar. The cedar wood would be taken from the leaves. These are cedar tips. And this particular cedar I have over here, this is actually from Lebanon. This is the cedar of Lebanon, written in many times mentioned in the Bible. And so this is what would be used to create what we have as cedar wood. Other plant parts would be the roots. Now we have the calamus that's taken from the root. We also have, this is spikenard. And this is a powder, as you can see here, a very dark powder, rich. This was mentioned in the Old and New Testament. Other grasses would include lemongrass, citronella, some of these other ones. The fruit would be from the peels, the rind, you saw the orange, peel, lemon, limes. This would be part of the fruit. For the leaves of the tree, the twigs may be used in the case of eucalyptus or tea tree. For flowers, we see roses is a very popular oil, ylang ylang and jasmine. I don't have any of those here. Some of the others would be, for instance, if you're looking at the trees, we have, this is cassia, and you can see this is mentioned in the holy anointing oil. Now, this is cinnamon bark, and if you take a look at this, you'll see there's a difference in these. Cinnamon bark is a much more expensive oil, but these are the ones you're probably most familiar with because they sell these in the grocery store. And so that would be used for cinnamon bark oil. Aniseed comes from this little pod where they use the seeds. Another seed would be mustard seed. These are tiny little seeds, and that's where they would use the mustard seed. Now this is part of the flower of saffron. This is mentioned in the Song of Solomon. And each one of these little pieces is taken by hand early in the morning before the sun comes up. Very, very costly oil. This is probably worth more than gold. Other leaves, flowering tops, stalks would have been chamomile, clary sage, thyme, basil, marjoram, and geranium. And I showed you the cinnamon bark we have. Pine needles, spruce, and fir are all mentioned in the Bible. These are taken from the leaves as well. And then we have so many others, the flowering tops of rosemary, lavender. These are some that you're probably very familiar with. Ginger is taken from the root. Now, we use the whole plant for peppermint. Let me see if I have some here. Here it is. This is peppermint leaves, but they will also include some of the stalk and some of the other plant parts for peppermint, spearmint, some of the others. So in the case of certain plants, they may use other parts. For instance, for the orange tree, they'll use the leaves and the twigs to create the oil petitgrain. While sweet orange comes from the actual peel or the rind of the fruit, as I showed you earlier, while the flower is used for the oil neroli. This is a rich floral essence that is extracted from the flower blossoms. It's so amazing that all three of these essential oils come from the same plant, but they're all very unique in their odor and in their therapeutic properties. And so you could see all these different essential oils have a very unique characteristic and therapeutic properties and benefits, which differ depending on, of course, their soil and where they've been grown, the country in which they come from. So within each plant's oil is a complex of a matrix of multiple hundreds and hundreds of chemical constituents. And because of that, sometimes it's very unpredictable of what you might see come from that plant. And one of the most amazing things is that because of the way God designed it, bacteria and viruses are unable to build up a resistance to these plants and mutate because the essential oils have an intelligence to them. That's something that synthetic drugs doesn't have. And so we see that while antibiotic might just go through and destroy everything in its path, we see yet Yahweh has created these to outsmart the bacterial virus. They're not able to adapt and mutate against these. And so there's so many complex constituents healing in these oils, and that's something I want to share with you as we go through this program. So modern medicine really has attempted to try to duplicate these chemical constituents and these healing capabilities, but they can't. You see, man-made pharmaceuticals lacks that intelligence and that life force in the healing oils of the Bible. So most synthetic prescriptions really have a lot of undesirable side effects that really can be detrimental. So for you, dear one, you're faced with a choice of which pill to take. Are you going to continue to go the way of the world, or will you choose Yahweh's way in choosing life? I want to encourage you today to give these a try and look at the powerful benefits that you can get from those.